The big meeting room on the space station was very quiet. Hundreds of different alien creatures sat in their seats, waiting to hear what would happen next. The room was huge, with walls made of special glass that showed the stars outside. Each alien looked different from the others. Some had 4 arms, others had no arms at all. Some were tall and thin, others were short and round. Ambassador Zethkar stood up from his chair. He was from a race called the Hegemony. His body looked like a giant bug with hard skin that shined in the light. He had 4 eyes that moved around as he looked at the other aliens. He was not happy about what the meeting was about today. "My friends," Zethkar said in a loud voice. His words came out through a machine that changed his language so everyone could understand. "We are here to talk about humans. The Council is scared of these creatures for no good reason. They live on a small blue planet far away from here. They are weak and stupid. They have no real weapons. They cannot even travel between stars very." Well, an old alien named Vexthani moved forward in her seat. She was very different from Zethkar. Her body was made of pure light that changed colors when she moved. She had been alive for thousands of years and had seen many things happen in the galaxy. Her voice was soft, but everyone listened when she spoke. "You do not understand, Zethkar," she said. "We are not afraid of what humans can do now. We are afraid of what they might become. Humans are different from all other creatures we have met. They never give up, no matter how bad things get for them." Many of the aliens in the room started laughing. The sound was strange, because each race made different noises when they laughed. Some buzzed like bees, others made clicking sounds with their teeth. Zethkar's people made a sound like grinding metal. "That is silly," Zethkar said, waving one of his 4 arms in the air. "My people have won wars against 17 different worlds. We have beaten creatures much stronger than these humans. What can they do against our big ships and powerful? Weapons? Nothing at all." Other aliens nodded their heads or made sounds that meant they agreed. The Skarn were a race of huge, strong creatures who loved to fight. They thought humans would be easy to beat. The Nexus Collective were very smart aliens who used computers to think about everything. Their computers said humans would lose any war, but some of the older aliens stayed quiet. They had lived for a very long time and remembered things that the younger races had forgotten. They knew that sometimes the most dangerous enemies were the ones that looked weak at first. Vexthani tried again to make them understand. "Listen to me carefully. We have studied human history for many years. We know how they lived on their home planet. They are the only intelligent race we have found that had to fight to stay alive every single day. Most creatures that become smart do so because they are safe. Humans became smart because they had to, or they would die." She made the air in the room show pictures of Earth from long ago. The other aliens could see humans hunting big animals with simple tools. They saw humans fighting each other in great wars. They saw humans living through ice ages and natural disasters that would have killed most other races. "Look at this," Vexthani said, pointing to the pictures. "Humans are both hunters and prey. They learned to kill big animals for food, but they also had to hide from even bigger animals that wanted to eat them. This made them very good at both attacking and defending. No other race in the galaxy has this experience." Zethkar made an angry noise. "You are telling us old stories that do not matter. Yes, maybe humans were tough on their home planet, but now they face the power of space travel and energy weapons. Their old skills mean nothing against modern technology." "You are wrong," said another old alien. This one looked like a tree made of crystal. "We have watched humans since they first looked up at the stars. When they found a problem they could not solve with strength, they used their minds. When they could not use their minds, they worked together. When working together was not enough, they found new ways to think about the problem. The crystal alien continued speaking. Humans sent small robots to other planets before they could travel there themselves. When the robots broke, humans built better ones. When those broke, they built even better ones. They never stopped trying. This is not normal behavior for most races. Some of the aliens in the room began to look worried. They had not thought about humans this way before. But Zethkar was not ready to change his mind. All races build robots, he said. All races try to solve problems. This does not make humans special. What makes them dangerous to us? They have only a few small spaceships. Their weapons are simple. Their armies are tiny compared to ours. Vexthani's light grew brighter, which meant she was getting upset. You still do not understand. Humans do not fight the way other races fight. When we go to war, we use our strongest weapons and our biggest armies. We try to win quickly with force. Humans do something different. They study their enemy. They find weak spots. They attack where the enemy does not expect. They make their enemy's strength become a weakness. She showed more pictures in the air. These showed human wars from their history. The aliens could see small groups of human soldiers defeating much larger armies by being clever. They saw humans winning battles by hiding and attacking at the right time instead of fighting face to face. In every human war, the side that looked weaker at the start sometimes won in the end, Vexthani explained. They call this asymmetric warfare. It means fighting in a way that makes the enemy's advantages useless. An alien that looked like a giant octopus raised several of its arms. But surely their primitive technology limits what they can do. Our sensors show they barely understand how to make energy shields or plasma weapons. That is exactly what makes them dangerous, Vexthani replied. They will not try to beat us with the same weapons we use. They will find completely different ways to fight, ways we have never seen before. The meeting room became very quiet. Many aliens were starting to understand what the old ones were trying to tell them. But not all of them. Zethkar stood up straighter and spoke in a loud, confident voice. I have heard enough of these scary stories. The hegemony has decided to deal with the human problem once and for all. Within 1 year, their worlds will belong to us. Their people will work as slaves on our farms. This council's fears will be proven wrong. He looked around the room at all the other aliens. Any race that wants to join us in this easy victory is welcome. There will be plenty of rewards to share when we divide up human space. Several younger alien races made sounds that meant they were interested. They saw a chance to get new worlds and resources without much fighting. But Vexthani and the other old aliens looked very sad. They had tried to warn everyone, but the young races would not listen. They knew what was probably going to happen next, and it would not be good for anyone. You have been warned, Vexthani said one last time. Humans may look weak now, but they are a race that was made strong by constant struggle. Their whole evolution was shaped by having to survive impossible situations. We have seen their history. They are the only intelligent race that learned to be both predator and prey at the same time. Zethkar laughed his grinding metal laugh. Old stories and superstition. The hegemony will show this council how wrong it has been. The human problem will be solved quickly and efficiently. As the meeting ended, the younger alien races left the room talking excitedly about dividing up human territory. They were already making plans for their easy victory, but the older races stayed behind, talking quietly among themselves. They remembered other times when young races had ignored their warnings. Those times had not ended well for the young races. They looked out at the stars and worried about what was coming. Humans might be different from any race the galaxy had ever seen, and that difference might change everything. The hegemony war fleet came out of hyperspace like a metal storm. 300 huge warships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. Each ship was over a kilometer long and filled with weapons that could destroy entire cities. The fleet moved forward toward the small blue planet that had been the subject of so many meetings and arguments. Admiral Vexmore stood on the bridge of his flagship called the Dominator. He was very pleased with himself. His 4 eyes moved back and forth as he watched the displays showing his powerful fleet. Intelligence reports had told him that humans only had about 50 spaceships that could fight in space. These human ships used simple fusion engines and basic weapons that would break apart like paper when hit by hegemony plasma cannons. "Open a communication channel to the human home planet," he ordered. One of his officers touched controls on a quantum transmitter. Soon the blue and green Earth appeared on the main viewing screen. A human woman appeared on the screen. She had dark skin and looked calm, even though she was facing a fleet that had 1,000 times more firepower than her entire species. She wore a simple military uniform with 5 stars on the shoulders. This was Admiral Sarah Chun, the top commander of all Earth's defense forces. "This is Admiral Chun of Earth. What do you want?" she said in a steady voice. Admiral Vexmore laughed. The sound was like pieces of metal grinding together. "Human, I am Admiral Vexmore of the Hegemony Third Fleet. You will give up right now and accept hegemony rule. Your people will be moved to farming planets where you will work as laborers for us. If you cooperate, we will kill you quickly instead of making you suffer." Admiral Chun's face did not change at all. Behind her, Vexmore could see other humans working calmly at their stations. They acted as if a huge alien war fleet was not about to attack their world. "Admiral Vexmore," Chun said in the same calm voice, "I am going to give you one chance to turn your ships around and leave our solar system. This is the only warning you will get." The entire hegemony bridge became completely silent. Then the alien officers started making loud clicking and chittering sounds that meant they could not believe what they had heard. A human, a member of a race that had barely left their own solar system, was threatening them. Very funny. Vexmore clicked his mandibles together. "Fine. Watch what happens when you refuse to obey us." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target. They're space stations that orbit the planet. Begin shooting." "Sir," the weapons officer said, hesitating, "our long-range sensors are picking up something strange. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, ... it is moving." On the tactical display, thousands of objects were indeed moving throughout the solar system. What the hegemony had thought was just space rocks and mining operations suddenly showed their true purpose. They were hidden weapons platforms, secret shipyards, and mobile defense stations that had been disguised as asteroids for many years. Admiral Chun smiled for the first time during the conversation. "You should have listened to the Galactic Council, Admiral. Humans do not surrender. We adapt to any situation." The first human missiles hit the front ships of the hegemony fleet before Admiral Vexmore could understand what was happening. These were not the primitive fusion warheads that his intelligence officers had expected. They were something much more deadly. The missiles were solid chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds, moving so fast that they made hegemony energy shields completely useless. They punched through armor like it was made of thin paper. "This is impossible," Vexmore snarled angrily. "How do they have such advanced technology?" His science officer's voice was shaking with fear. "Sir, our analysis shows these weapons use scientific principles we have never seen before. They are not just fast-moving chunks of metal. They are somehow bending space and time to reach these incredible speeds." More human ships came out of hiding throughout the solar system. Not the small number that intelligence had predicted, but hundreds of sleek, deadly-looking vessels that moved like hunting wolves around the slower, Hegemony Fleet. The human ships were not like anything the Hegemony had seen before. They were smaller than Hegemony warships, but much faster and more maneuverable. They seemed to appear from nowhere, fire their weapons, and then disappear again before the Hegemony ships could shoot back. Admiral, Chan's voice cut through the chaos and confusion. You made the mistake of thinking we would fight you using normal tactics, Admiral. Humans wrote the first books on asymmetric warfare. We have been preparing for this day ever since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. The battle was not going the way Admiral Vexmore had expected at all. His huge, powerful ships were being torn apart by weapons they could not understand and enemies they could barely see. Human missiles continued to slam into Hegemony vessels, each impact sending shockwaves through the alien fleet. How are they moving so fast? Vexmore demanded. Our sensors can barely track them. Unknown, sir, replied his tactical officer. They seem to be using some kind of space-folding technology that is far beyond our understanding. Our hyperspace jamming fields do not affect them at all. The human ships were not just fast, they were smart. They worked together like a pack of predators, coordinating their attacks to hit Hegemony ships from multiple directions at once. When the aliens tried to focus their fire on one human ship, 3 others would attack from different angles. Even more disturbing was how the humans used their own solar system as a weapon. The asteroid belt was not just hiding human ships and stations. The asteroids themselves had been turned into kinetic weapons. Chunks of rock the size of buildings were being accelerated to enormous speeds and launched at the Hegemony fleet. Sir, called out the navigation officer, the humans have turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Every planet, every moon, every piece of space debris has been weaponized. Admiral Vexmore watched in growing horror as his supposedly invincible fleet was systematically destroyed. The humans were not fighting like any race he had ever encountered. They did not line up their ships and try to overpower the enemy with superior firepower. Instead, they hit and ran, appeared and disappeared, struck from unexpected angles, and used unconventional weapons. This is not how space battles are supposed to work, he shouted. Admiral Chun's image appeared again on his screen. That's your problem, Admiral. You're thinking like every other race in the galaxy. You build bigger ships, more powerful weapons, stronger shields. You fight the same way your ancestors fought 1,000 years ago. More Hegemony ships exploded as human weapons, found their targets. The alien admiral could see that he was losing ships much faster than he was destroying human vessels. Humans do not think like other races, Chun continued. We do not try to outmuscle our enemies. We outthink them. We find their weaknesses and exploit them. We use their own strength against them. The human strategy was becoming clear to Vexmore, but understanding it did not help him counter it. The humans had prepared their entire solar system for exactly this kind of invasion. Every piece of space debris, every small moon, every orbital station had been turned into part of a coordinated defense network. You cannot defeat us, Vexmore raged. We have 300 ships. You only have a few dozen. Numbers do not matter when you do not know how to use them effectively, Chun replied. You brought 300 targets into our solar system, Admiral. We have been preparing to destroy exactly this kind of fleet for decades. The battle continued to go badly for the Hegemony. Their ships were designed to fight other ships in open space using conventional tactics. They were not prepared for an enemy that used the environment as a weapon, that struck from hiding and disappeared before they could be hit back. Human ships continued to emerge from concealment throughout the solar system. They came from behind planets, from inside asteroid fields, from the shadows of moons. Each new group of human vessels struck at the Hegemony fleet and then vanished again before they could be targeted. Sir, we have lost over 200 ships. reported the tactical officer. At this rate, the entire fleet will be destroyed within hours. Admiral Vexmore's confidence had completely disappeared. This was supposed to be an easy victory against a primitive species. Instead, it had become a nightmare of hit-and-run attacks by an enemy that seemed to know exactly what the hegemony would do before they did it. "Order a retreat," he said quietly. "Sir?" the communications officer asked, not sure he had heard correctly. "I said order a retreat," Vexmore shouted. "All ships withdraw to the edge of the system immediately." As the surviving hegemony ships tried to escape, Admiral Chon's voice followed them one last time. "Tell your leaders what you have seen here, Admiral. Tell them that Earth remembers its friends and never forgives its enemies. You started this war. We will finish it." Of the 300 ships that had entered the Sol system, only 53 managed to escape. All of them were damaged and would need months of repairs before they could fight. Again, Admiral Vexmore sat in his command chair as his fleet limped away from Earth. He had been so confident just hours before. Now he understood that the Galactic Council had been right to warn against attacking humans, but it was too late. The war had begun, and the hegemony had just. The hegemony High Command received Admiral Vexmore's emergency message with shock that quickly turned into rage. Of his 300 powerful warships, only 50 had escaped from the Sol system. Even those ships were badly damaged and could not fight again for many months. The human fleet had chased them to the edge of the solar system before turning back, but not before sending a message that made every hegemony commander afraid. "Tell your leaders," the human admiral had broadcast to the fleeing ships, "that Earth remembers its friends and never forgives its enemies. You started this war. We will finish it." Supreme Admiral Cole Fick was the highest-ranking military officer in all of hegemony space. He stood before the War Council in a state of barely controlled anger. His hard outer shell had turned dark red, which showed he was extremely upset. "Explain to me," he said in a dangerous voice, "how a primitive species with fewer than 50 combat ships destroyed most of our Third Fleet." The intelligence coordinator Veltar projected holographic recordings of the battle into the center of the room. "Supreme Admiral, our first assessment of human capabilities was completely wrong. Human military tactics appear to be based on deception, speed, and weapon systems that work in ways we do not understand. The battle recordings showed human ships appearing from what looked like empty space. Their weapons cut through hegemony shields as if the shields were not even there. Even worse, the humans had used their own asteroid belt as a massive weapon system, launching rocks at near-light speed with deadly accuracy. More troubling," Veltar continued, "is their industrial capacity. Our deep space scouts report that they have turned their entire solar system into a military base. Every moon, asteroid, and space station has been converted into either a fortress or a shipyard." Admiral Colfick's mandibles clicked together in a threatening way. "Then we will crush them before they can spread to other systems. Order the first through Fifth Fleets to assemble. 2,000 ships will turn their solar system into space dust." But as the massive hegemony armada began to gather, disturbing reports started coming in from across their territory. Human ships, impossibly fast and nearly invisible to sensors, were appearing throughout hegemony space. They did not attack major fleet bases or heavily defended worlds. Instead, they struck supply convoys, isolated outposts, and communication stations with surgical precision. Commander Hex Dai was in charge of a supply depot on Vorthan Prime, a planet deep inside hegemony territory. He watched in horror as his installation was reduced to melted metal in just seconds. The human attack had come without any warning. 6 sleek vessels appeared from nowhere, destroyed his entire base, and vanished before his defense platforms could even detect them. How are they moving so fast? He demanded of his sensor operator. Unknown, sir. They seem to be using some form of space-folding technology that is far beyond anything we understand. Our hyperspace blocking fields have no effect on them at all. Similar attacks were happening at the same time across the entire hegemony empire. Fuel refineries, weapons factories, communication hubs, all struck with terrifying precision and efficiency. The humans were not just fighting a war. They were systematically destroying the infrastructure that made hegemony expansion possible. The speed of the human attacks was impossible to believe. A supply convoy would be destroyed near one star, and minutes later another convoy would be attacked near a completely different star hundreds of light years away. Either the humans had thousands of ships, or they had developed technology that allowed them to travel faster than anyone thought possible. On Earth, Admiral Chun stood in the newly built war room deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Holographic displays showed the entire galaxy in real time, with red dots showing successful human strikes and blue dots showing hegemony positions. Status report, she commanded. Colonel Martinez, her chief of operations, highlighted several sectors of space. Phase 1 is going better than we planned. We have successfully damaged their supply lines across 17 star systems. Their main fleet is huge, but they are having trouble coordinating their movements without their communication network. What about our casualties? Very few on our side. The new quantum tunnel drives are working even better than expected. We can strike anywhere in the galaxy and be back in soul space within hours. Admiral Chun nodded grimly. She remembered the day 20 years ago when humanity had first detected signs of aggressive alien civilizations in nearby star systems. While diplomats had hoped for peaceful contact, military planners had prepared for the worst possible scenario. Quantum tunnel drive had been humanity's greatest scientific breakthrough. It was a technology that did not just bend space-time like other faster-than-light systems. Instead, it created temporary wormholes that bypassed normal physics entirely. Combined with human tactical doctrine developed through thousands of years of warfare on Earth, it had turned humanity's defenders into the galaxy's most effective guerrilla force. Admiral, her intelligence chief, approached with a worried expression. We are detecting massive fleet movements throughout hegemony space. They are not just sending reinforcements to attack us again. They are mobilizing everything they have. Chun studied the tactical displays carefully. The hegemony was committing over 3,000 ships to a new campaign against Sol. They were stripping defenses from across their empire to gather this enormous fleet. Perfect, she said quietly. Signal. All deep strike teams. It is time for Phase 2. The human deep strike teams were small groups of ships that had been positioned throughout hegemony space over the past several months. They had been hiding in asteroid fields, behind planets, and in the empty space between stars. Each team had been waiting for exactly this moment, when the hegemony would commit most of their forces to attacking Earth. As the hegemony's main fleets moved toward Sol, the human teams struck at targets that were now only lightly defended. Military academies, government centers, industrial worlds, all hit simultaneously by human forces that appeared from nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. The attacks were not random. They had been carefully planned to cause maximum disruption. To hegemony society, communication networks went down, preventing different parts of the empire from coordinating with each other. Supply networks were severed, leaving distant colonies unable to get the resources they needed. Transportation hubs were destroyed, making it impossible for civilian and military traffic to move efficiently. But the most devastating attacks were on the hegemony's industrial base. Humans did not just destroy factories and shipyards. They specifically targeted the facilities that produced the most advanced components for hegemony technology. Without these specialized parts, the aliens could not repair their damaged ships or build new ones. Supreme Admiral Cole Thick received reports of the attacks while his main fleet was still several days away from Earth. Each new report was worse than the last. Entire star systems were going silent as their communication networks were destroyed. Colonies were reporting that they were cut off from all outside contact. How is this possible? He raged. We are tracking fewer than 200 human ships in our territory. How can so few vessels cause so much damage? His intelligence officer looked terrified as he delivered his report. Sir, we believe the humans are using a completely different approach to warfare than any race we have encountered. Instead of trying to defeat our military forces directly, they are attacking our ability to maintain those forces. What do you mean? They are not trying to destroy our ships in battle, sir. They are making it impossible for us to fuel, repair, or replace those ships. Without supplies and support, even our most powerful warships become useless. Colfax stared at the strategic display showing human attacks across his empire. Red warning symbols were appearing faster than his staff could process them. The humans were systematically dismantling everything that held the hegemony together. This is not how civilized species conduct warfare, he said. No, sir, the intelligence officer agreed. But it appears to be extremely effective. The human strategy was becoming clear to the hegemony leadership, but understanding it did not help them counter it. The humans had studied their enemy carefully and identified exactly which targets would cause the most damage with the least effort. They were not interested in glorious battles or honorable combat. They were interested in winning as efficiently as possible. Doc reports continued to flood in from across hegemony space. The humans were not just hitting military and industrial targets. They were also striking at the social and political infrastructure that held the hegemony together. Government buildings, communication centers, transportation networks, all were being systematically destroyed. Even more disturbing was the speed and coordination of the attacks. Human ships were appearing simultaneously in dozens of different star systems, striking their targets and disappearing before any response was possible. The level of coordination required for such operations suggested that humans had developed communication technology that was far more advanced than anything the hegemony possessed. Sir, reported the communications officer, we are losing contact with entire sectors of our territory. The humans have destroyed so many. The largest fleet in hegemony history dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system in perfect formation. 3,000 of their finest warships arranged themselves in attack patterns that had been used successfully for centuries. Supreme Admiral Cole Thick stood on the bridge of his super dreadnought called the Annihilator, confident that no force in the galaxy could withstand such overwhelming firepower. Scan the entire system, he ordered. Find every human ship and space station. His sensor operator made confused clicking sounds with his mandibles as he studied the readings. Sir, I am reading very little activity. Perhaps 50 ships in orbit around their home planet, and the asteroid belt appears to be normal. Colthick's 4 eyes narrowed suspiciously. After the devastating defeat of the Third Fleet, he had expected to find elaborate defenses, hidden weapons platforms, and thousands of the fast human vessels that had been attacking hegemony territory. For months, it must be a trap, his tactical officer warned. They are hiding their true strength somehow. Of course it is a trap, Colthick clicked dismissively. But what can 50 ships and some hidden installations do against 3,000? Begin the advance. Use battle formation Omega-7. The massive alien fleet began moving toward Earth with weapon systems charging and shields at maximum power. But as they crossed the orbit of Jupiter, something unprecedented began to happen. Space itself started to change. Sir, the science officer's voice cracked with panic. ion detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system. The quantum structure of spacetime is becoming unstable. On the main viewing screen, stars began to disappear from view, replaced by swirling whirlpools of distorted spacetime. The asteroid belt, which had appeared normal just moments before, suddenly revealed its true nature. It was not just a collection of rocks orbiting the sun. It was a network of connected quantum tunnels that turned the entire inner solar system into a maze of wormholes. Admiral Chun's image appeared on every hegemony ship at the same time, her voice carrying a coldness that made veteran warriors shiver. Supreme Admiral Kolvik, I assume, welcome to Soul Space. You have made a critical error in your assessment of humanity. Impossible, Kolvik snarled. How are you broadcasting through our secure communication channels? Because, Admiral, you still do not understand what you are facing. The Galactic Council tried to warn you, but you were too proud to listen. Humans are not just another species you can conquer. We are what happens when evolution creates the perfect survivors. Around the hegemony fleet, space continued to warp and twist in impossible ways. Ships found themselves separated from their squadrons as quantum tunnels opened and closed around them, scattering the massive armada across vast distances. You see, Chun continued, while you were building bigger ships and more powerful weapons, we were learning to rewrite the laws of physics. Every human who dies in this war makes us stronger, more determined, and more creative in finding new ways to fight back. The first hegemony ships began to vanish. They were not destroyed by explosions or weapon fire. Instead, they were transported through quantum tunnels to unknown locations. Other ships found themselves caught in artificial gravity wells that should not exist, their hulls crushed by forces that defied all conventional understanding. Our entire solar system, Chun's voice echoed through the chaos, has been converted into a weapon. Every planet, every moon, every piece of space debris is now part of a quantum network that we control completely. Admiral Kolvik watched in, growing horror as his seemingly invincible fleet was being systematically dismantled without a single less energy beam being fired at them. Ships were being flung across the galaxy through artificial wormholes, their crews left stranded light years from home with no way to return. Others found themselves trapped in temporal loops, repeating the same few seconds of existence over and over forever. This cannot be possible, he raged. No species can manipulate spacetime on this scale. Admiral Chun's smile was like that of a predator watching trapped prey. No species except humanity, Admiral. Do you know what makes us different from every other race in the galaxy? We are the only species that evolved as both hunter and hunted. We learned to kill for food, but we also learned to hide from things that wanted to kill us. We developed pack tactics for working together, but we also mastered individual survival skills. Most importantly, we learned that when you cannot overpower your enemy, you must outthink them. The quantum field generators hidden throughout the Sol system reached full power. The entire solar system became a maze of connected wormholes, gravity, wells, and spatial distortions that only human vessels could navigate safely. The humans had spent decades turning their home system into the ultimate defensive weapon. Your mistake, Chun concluded, was thinking this would be a conventional war fought with conventional tactics. Humans do not fight conventional wars. Admiral, we fight to win, using whatever means are necessary. And we never, ever give up. Hegemony ships continued to disappear or become trapped in impossible situations. Some found themselves inside planets, their matter somehow occupying the same space as solid rock. Others were stretched across multiple dimensions, their crews experiencing reality from several different perspectives at once. The few hegemony vessels that managed to fire their weapons found that their energy beams were redirected through quantum tunnels, causing them to shoot at their own ships instead of human targets. Even their most powerful plasma cannons became useless when the laws of physics themselves could be manipulated by their enemy. How did you develop such technology? Kolthik demanded as his own ship was caught in a slowly tightening gravity spiral. We did not develop it, Admiral. We discovered it. When humans first achieved faster-than-light travel, we found that our brains work differently from other species. Most races can only think in 3 dimensions. Humans can visualize and manipulate higher-dimensional mathematics intuitively. It is probably because our ancestors had to think in 3 dimensions just to survive, tracking prey through forests, predicting where predators might attack from above or below. More hegemony ships vanished into quantum tunnels or were crushed by impossible gravitational forces. The massive fleet that had entered the Sol system was being reduced to a handful of vessels, with no understanding of how to fight back. This is not warfare, Kolthik said desperately. This is some kind of magic. No, Admiral. This is what happens when a species that evolved to survive impossible odds gains access to advanced physics. Every human child learns to think in ways that other races cannot comprehend. We see patterns where others see chaos. We find solutions where others see only problems. The quantum manipulation of the Sol system reached its peak. Entire sections of space were folded, twisted, and reorganized according to human will. The hegemony fleet found itself scattered across impossible distances, with some ships literally turned inside out and others existing in multiple time streams simultaneously. Your species builds weapons to destroy enemies, Chon said as the chaos continued around them. Our species turns the entire universe into a weapon. We do not just use tools, Admiral. We become one with our tools until there is no difference between human intention and physical reality. Of the 3,000 ships that had entered Sol space with such confidence, fewer than 200 managed to find their way to the edge of the system. Even those were only allowed to escape because the humans wanted them to carry a message back to the rest of the galaxy. Supreme Admiral Kolthik found his flagship somehow, spared from the quantum maze, though he did not understand why. As his remaining ships fled toward hyperspace, he received one final transmission from the human admiral. Tell the galaxy what you have seen here, Admiral. Tell them that Earth remembers its enemies and always repays what is owed to them. Tell them that this is what happens when you ignore the warnings of those who are wiser than you. As the last hegemony ships disappeared into hyperspace, the Sol system slowly returned to normal. The quantum fields were shut down, the artificial gravity wells were collapsed, and space-time resumed its usual structure. But Admiral Chun knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Humanity had revealed its true capabilities to the galaxy, and there would be consequences for that revelation. The question now was whether those consequences would lead to peace or to an even larger war. The emergency session of the Galactic Council met under unprecedented circumstances. For the first time in galactic history, an entire sector of space had gone completely silent. Hegemony territory, which had once included over 100 star systems, no longer responded to any communications. No trade ships, no military patrols, no government transmissions. It was as if one of the galaxy's major powers had simply vanished overnight. Ambassador Zethkar stood before the assembly as a completely different creature from the proud, arrogant alien who had dismissed the council's warnings months earlier. His hard outer shell had turned pale gray, and his once confident mandibles clicked nervously as he addressed the chamber. Honored colleagues, his voice was barely above a whisper. I come before you to formally request immediate intervention. The human situation has evolved far beyond our ability to contain or control. Elder Counselor Vexthani looked at him with ancient, knowing eyes that seemed to say, I told you so, without speaking the words. Explain what has happened. Zethkar activated a holographic display It showed what had once been hegemony space. What had previously been marked as over 100 star systems under hegemony control was now covered with ominous red warning zones. 3 days ago, human forces struck every major hegemony installation across our entire territory at exactly the same time. Not just military targets, but civilian infrastructure, government centers, and industrial complexes. They appeared from nowhere, struck with precision that seems impossible, and vanished before any response could be organized. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs and sounds of disbelief. The Skarn war chief leaned forward, his massive frame tense with confusion. Impossible. No species has the capability to coordinate attacks across such vast distances simultaneously. The humans do, Sethkar continued, his voice hollow with defeat. They have somehow weaponized their entire industrial capacity. Every human ship functions simultaneously as a warship, a scout vessel, and a mobile factory. They do not need supply lines because they can manufacture everything they need from local resources wherever they go. He gestured to another display showing mysterious human installations throughout what had been hegemony space. Even worse, they are expanding rapidly. Every star system they have visited now contains these quantum manipulation devices. They are turning entire solar systems into weapons platforms. Admiral Corval of the Nexus Collective, whose mathematical mind had initially calculated human defeat as completely certain, spoke with unprecedented uncertainty in his voice. Our probability calculation systems can no longer model human behavior. Effectively, they operate outside all conventional strategic doctrine. It is as if they are playing an entirely different game with completely different rules than the rest of us. Elder Vexthani rose slowly from her seat, her body of pure light, pulsing with what might have been sadness or perhaps satisfaction. You were warned, Ambassador Zethkar. This council has observed the rise and fall of countless civilizations over millions of years. We learned long ago to recognize certain dangerous patterns. The ancient being gestured with one limb of light, and new displays appeared showing primitive humans throughout their evolutionary history. The other species could see humans hunting in coordinated packs, surviving ice ages that would have killed most other species, and adapting to every conceivable environment on their dangerous homeworld. Humanity represents something completely unique in our galactic experience. Most intelligent species achieve advanced thinking despite the hostile nature of their environment. Humans achieved intelligence specifically because of their hostile environment. They are the only known species to evolve sentience while remaining both predator and prey, both pack hunter and individual survivor. She paused to let the implications of her words sink into the minds of the assembled aliens. Every other species in this chamber achieved space travel by overcoming and suppressing their aggressive instincts. Humans achieved space travel by refining and perfecting those instincts into something far more sophisticated and dangerous. As if her words had summoned them, a new presence entered the chamber. Admiral Sarah Chun materialized through quantum teleportation, her image clear and solid despite the impossible distance from Earth. She wore the same simple uniform as before, but now additional insignia marked her as Supreme Commander of what? Intelligence reports called the Human Defense Consortium. Honorable counselors, she said, nodding respectfully to the elder races, while completely ignoring the younger, more aggressive species. I believe you have been discussing recent events in former hegemony territory. Zethkar recoiled as if he had been physically struck. What have you done with our colonies? Our civilian populations? Admiral Chun's expression remained completely neutral and emotionless. They have been relocated to more suitable worlds within the territory you surrendered when you declared war on humanity. They are unharmed and well cared for, but they are no longer your responsibility to govern. The casual way she announced the complete conquest and reorganization of an entire Galactic Empire sent shockwaves through the chamber. Species that had existed for thousands of years suddenly realized they were witnessing something completely unprecedented, the emergence of a power that operated by entirely different rules than anything they had ever encountered. The Galactic Council's wisdom in warning against military aggression toward humanity has now been clearly demonstrated. Chun continued in the same calm voice. However, I want to make something absolutely clear to everyone present. Humans do not seek galactic domination or conquest. We seek security and the freedom to develop peacefully. The difference between these goals is crucial to understand. She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show human-controlled space. Unlike the chaotic conquests typical of aggressive expansionist powers, human territory showed carefully maintained boundaries with clear defensive purposes. Every species that has approached us with peaceful intentions has found us to be willing partners in trade, scientific cooperation, and cultural exchange. Every species that has threatened us or attempted to harm us has discovered that we take such threats very seriously indeed. Elder Vexthani spoke carefully, choosing her words with the wisdom of eons. What are humanity's long-term intentions regarding the rest of the galaxy? Simple and straightforward, Chun replied. We want to be left alone to develop our civilization and explore the universe in peace. We are willing to trade knowledge and resources, to cooperate on projects of mutual benefit, and to assist other species with scientific and technological challenges. But we will never again allow another species to threaten human worlds or human lives. The weight of her words settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. The galaxy's younger, more aggressive civilizations suddenly found themselves facing a terrible realization. They had awakened something that had been content to remain in the shadows of galactic politics. And now that something was vastly more powerful than anything they had ever encountered before. Ambassador Zethkar made one final, desperate plea. Surely the Council can impose some form of control or limitation on human expansion. The Council warned you repeatedly. Elder Vexthani interrupted firmly. You chose not to listen to our advice. Now you and the entire galaxy must live with the consequences of that choice. Admiral Chan's image began to fade as she prepared to return to human space. The invitation for peaceful coexistence remains open to all species and civilizations. We have no desire for conflict with those who approach us in good faith. But understand this clearly. Humanity has learned the galaxy's traditional rules of engagement, and we have decided to write our own rules instead. I strongly advise all species to choose their next actions very carefully. As her image disappeared completely, the chamber fell into profound and thoughtful silence. The age of casual galactic conquest was over. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors seeking to dominate others, but as something far more dangerous, survivors who had decided they would never be victims again. The younger, more aggressive species would eventually learn to adapt to this new reality. Some would choose the path of cooperation and mutual benefit. Others would continue to test human resolve and learn painful lessons about the consequences of such testing. The elder races simply nodded in ancient understanding, remembering other times in galactic history when the balance of power had shifted so dramatically and completely. And in the depths of space, human ships continued their patient watch over the territory they had claimed, ready to defend what they had built and explore what lay beyond. They were a species finally free to chart their own destiny among the stars, having proven that they would never again accept the role of victims in someone else's story. The galaxy had learned the final lesson about humanity, that they were not a species to be conquered, controlled, or threatened. They were a species to be respected or avoided entirely. The choice, as always, belonged to those who would encounter them in the vast darkness between the stars.
The sky turned an odd shade of purple on a Tuesday morning. People around the world pointed their phones upward, recording the strange colors dancing above major cities. No one understood what was happening, not even the smartest scientists who rushed to their telescopes and computers. Captain Alan Wright stood on the bridge of the International Space Station Alpha, his hands gripping the safety rail as he stared out the viewport. 20 ships had appeared just beyond the moon's orbit. They didn't look like anything humans had ever built. Their hulls shimmered like oil on water, changing colors slightly as they moved. "Are we getting any response to our hails?" Alan asked, his voice steady despite the fear tightening his chest. Lieutenant Heather Morrison shook her head. "Nothing, sir. We've tried all frequencies." The alien ships moved in perfect formation, getting closer to Earth with each passing minute. Alan had spent 15 years in space, commanding the most advanced station humanity had ever built. He knew trouble when he saw it. "Send the alert code to Mission Control, then get everyone to the escape pods. Just in case." On Earth, in the ideal small town of Riverdale, Nebraska, Olivia Bennett wiped grease from her hands after fixing old Mrs. Peterson's tractor. The farm machine rumbled to life, belching black smoke into the clear morning air. "Good as new, Mrs. Peterson. Just needed a new fuel line." The old woman smiled and pressed a $20 tip into Olivia's hand. "You're just like your father. You know, he could fix anything with wheels." Olivia nodded, trying not to show how much those words hurt. Her father had died 6 months ago, leaving her the auto shop, a mountain of debt, and a locked shed behind their house that he had forbidden her to enter. As she drove home in her beat-up pickup truck, she noticed people standing in the street, looking up at the sky. She rolled down her window. "What's going on?" she called to her neighbor. "Look," he pointed upward. The purple sky swirled above them. Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. Something wasn't right. In Washington, D.C., President Eleanor Mason sat in the Situation Room, surrounded by generals and scientists. The large screens on the wall showed the alien ships from different satellite angles. "What are our options?" she asked, her voice firm. General Jackson shook his head. "Madam President, if those ships are hostile, we don't have anything that can stop them. Our most advanced weapons would be like throwing rocks at a tank." The president straightened her. "Jacket, we don't know they're hostile. Keep trying to communicate with them." As if in answer, the screen suddenly flickered. All across the planet, every television, phone, and computer displayed the same image: a tall, thin being with pale blue skin and large black eyes. "People of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English, its voice oddly musical. "I am Ambassador Threll of the Galactic Council. Your world has been under observation for centuries. The time has come to bring you into the fold of galactic civilization." In the space station, Alan and his crew watched the broadcast with growing unease. "They don't look friendly," Heather whispered. Threll continued, "Your species has shown remarkable potential, but also disturbing tendencies toward violence and unpredictability. The Council has decided that a period of guidance is necessary before you can be trusted with interstellar privileges." President Mason stood before the camera, addressing the alien directly. "Ambassador Threll, we welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations. But we must insist on our right to self-determination. Earth is not seeking to be guided by outside forces." The alien's expression didn't change. "Your consent is not required, Madam President. The process has already begun." Across the globe, smaller ships appeared in the skies above major cities. They hummed with energy that caused electrical devices to fail. Military jets scrambled to intercept them, but dropped from the sky as their systems shut down. On the space station, alarms blared as 3 alien vessels approached. "Everyone to the escape pods now," Alan shouted, pushing his crew toward the exit. "That's an order." As the last crew member entered the pod, Alan saw a beam of light cut through the station's main hub. Metal screamed as it was torn apart. He jumped into the pod just as the airlock failed and slammed his hand on the launch button. The tiny pod shot away from the dying station, tumbling through space. Through the small window, Alan watched as the home he had lived in for 5 years broke apart like a child's toy. In Nebraska, Olivia ran to her house as strange lights appeared in the sky above her town. She grabbed her father's old shotgun, though she knew it would probably be useless. As she passed the locked shed, she paused. Her father had always been secretive about his work before becoming a mechanic. He had worked for the government once, something to do with research. She made a decision and grabbed the key she had found among his things. The shed door creaked open, revealing not tools or farm equipment, but a staircase leading underground. Motion sensors detected her presence and lights flickered on, illuminating a laboratory filled with strange equipment and computers. On the main screen, a message flashed. Protocol Prometheus activated. Welcome, Dr. Bennett. Olivia stared in confusion. Her father had never been called doctor as far as she knew. A hologram appeared. Her father, looking tired but determined. Olivia, if you're seeing this, it means they've finally come. I hoped this day would never arrive, but I prepared for it anyway. 20 years ago, I was part of a team that studied a crashed alien scout ship. What we learned changed everything, but the government decided to keep it secret, fearing panic. Her father's hologram gestured to the equipment around the room. I continued the work in secret. Everything you need to understand is here. Their technology, their weaknesses. Earth will need this knowledge now. The hologram flickered out as the ground shook. Outside, strange ships hovered over the town, beaming down creatures in armor. Olivia ducked down and watched through a small window as the aliens began rounding up her neighbors. In Washington, as alien troops marched toward the White House, President Mason was escorted to a hidden bunker beneath the city. Once secure, she faced the grim-faced officials waiting for her. Madam President, General Jackson said, it's time to activate Protocol Prometheus. Eleanor Mason nodded slowly. Do it and may God help us all. Deep beneath the earth in secret bases around the world, machines built for a day no one hoped would come powered up. Humanity had just suffered its first defeat in an interstellar war. But the fight had only just begun, and somewhere over the Atlantic, a small escape pod carrying Captain Alan Wright burned through the atmosphere, bringing with it a man who had seen the enemy up close, and who would never stop fighting to take back his home. 3 months passed since the day the aliens came. Earth was no longer the same. The Galactic Council controlled all major cities, their tall metal towers rising from the ruins of human buildings. Alien soldiers patrolled the streets, making sure humans followed the new rules. Schools were closed and replaced with integration centers where young people learned about their place in the galaxy, always at the bottom. Alan Wright had survived. His escape pod had crashed in the Rocky Mountains far from any city. A group of forest rangers found him half dead and brought him to their hidden camp. Now he led 50 men and women who refused to accept alien rule. They lived in caves and moved often to avoid detection. The supply convoy will pass through this valley tomorrow, Alan said, pointing to a hand-drawn map spread on a rock. We take what we need and disappear before their backup arrives. Beside him stood Jack Porter, a former police officer from Denver. Their weapons are still better than ours. We lost 3 people last time. Alan nodded grimly. I know. But people in the nearby towns are starving. The aliens give food only to those who work in their factories. Every day was a struggle. They attacked small alien groups, stole supplies, and rescued humans from work camps. It wasn't enough, but it was something. In Nebraska, Olivia Bennett had not left her father's underground lab for weeks. She studied his notes and the alien technology he had collected. She learned that the ship that crashed 20 years ago belonged to a species called the Nalari, who were now part of the Galactic Council but had once been free. Her father had taken parts from the crashed ship and built devices that could disrupt alien communications. The technology was old by Council standards, but it was better than anything humans had. Olivia tested a small device that could block alien signals in a 5-mile radius. It worked, but only for 10 minutes before burning out. She needed better materials to make it last longer. That night, she packed the device and her father's notes into a backpack. It was time to leave the safety of the lab and find others who were fighting back. In Washington, the alien flag flew over the White House. Inside, Ambassador Threll sat at the president's desk, reading reports from around the planet. Resistance, Attacks have increased by 30% this month, said Commander Zorla, his security chief. They're becoming more organized. Threll's black eyes narrowed. Double the patrols in problem areas. Anyone caught helping rebels will be sent to the labor camps on Mars. And what about the missing technology? Zorla asked. Our scouts still haven't found the crashed Nalari ship. Keep looking, Threll hissed. If humans learn how to use that technology, it could delay our plans. The Galactic Council had big plans for Earth. Humans would work as laborers in mines and factories across the galaxy. Earth itself would be transformed, its forests cut down to make room for alien cities. But far beneath the conquered capital, President Eleanor Mason was still alive. The presidential bunker connected to old subway tunnels that allowed her and her staff to move unseen. From this hidden command center, they coordinated resistance cells across the country. Dr. Reeves, what's your progress? She asked, looking at the video screen showing a bearded man in a white lab coat. Dr. Samuel Reeves was Earth's leading quantum physicist. He now worked in a secret facility beneath the Antarctic ice, safe from alien detection. We've completed Phase 1. Madam President, he replied. The prototype works in tests, but we need more power to scale it up. Eleanor nodded. General Jackson is working on that. His team captured an alien power core last week. Protocol Prometheus was moving forward. It was a desperate plan, but their only hope against an enemy with far superior technology. That evening in San Francisco, the aliens announced new rules. All humans had to wear tracking devices. Anyone found without one would be punished. When people gathered to protest, alien soldiers opened fire, killing hundreds. The massacre was recorded by hidden cameras. The footage spread quickly through the human underground network, passed from one resistance cell to another. People who had accepted alien rule now questioned their choice. Thousands joined the resistance. In orbit above Earth, Junior Officer Kelmar watched the video of the massacre from his post on a Council battleship. He was not supposed to access human communications, but curiosity had gotten the better of him. What he saw disturbed him deeply. The Nalari people like him had joined the Council after being conquered. They were told that the Council brought peace and progress to primitive worlds. But this was not peace. He copied the video and sent it to friends on other ships. Soon, many junior officers from various species were secretly watching the same footage, asking the same questions. On a cold night in the mountains, Alan's group prepared for their raid. They painted their faces black and checked their stolen alien weapons. As they moved through the forest, Alan saw something strange. A young woman walking alone carrying a backpack. "Hold," he whispered. "Someone's coming." They surrounded the woman quickly. When she saw them, she raised her hands. "I'm not with them," she said. "My name is Olivia Bennett. I have something that can help us fight back." Alan kept his weapon, pointed at her. "Prove it." Olivia slowly reached into her backpack and pulled out a small metal device. "This can jam their communications. My father built it using technology from a crashed alien ship." Alan's eyes widened. Maybe this was the break they needed, but he remained cautious. "If you're telling the truth, welcome to the resistance. If not," he left the threat unspoken. That same night, in different parts of the world, other things were happening. Dr. Reeves connected the alien power core to his machine and watched as it hummed to life. President Mason received word that more Council ships had arrived in orbit, bringing thousands of new troops. And in space, Officer Kelmar made a decision that would change everything. He began sending detailed information about Council weaknesses to human resistance groups. 1 year after the invasion, the Galactic Council believed Earth was nearly defeated. They didn't know that humans were gathering their strength, finding allies and preparing to strike back. The real war was just about to begin. A year had passed since the purple sky brought aliens to Earth. In that time, the human resistance had grown from scattered groups into a worldwide network. Small victories gave people hope, but the Galactic Council still controlled most of the planet. In the mountain hideout, Alan Wright studied the map showing alien strongholds across North America. Beside him stood Olivia Bennett, whose devices had changed the way they fought. The jammers are ready, she said, placing a small metal disc on the table. We've made 50 of them using parts from their own equipment. Each one can block alien communications for 30 minutes now. Alan nodded. Good. We'll need them tomorrow. Their plan was bold: attack all major alien communication centers at the same time. Without being able to talk to each other, the aliens would be confused and slow to respond. What about Dr. Reeves? Alan asked. Is he ready with his part? Olivia nodded. He sent word yesterday. The phase shift devices are working. Our fighters will be able to walk right through their energy shields. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The first real chance to hurt the Galactic Council. That night, resistance leaders around the world received the same message. Tomorrow, Earth fights back. In Antarctica, Dr. Samuel Reeves checked his equipment one last time. On the HYF, phase shift technology was his greatest creation. It used ideas from the crashed alien ship, but went beyond what even the aliens had thought possible. The devices are packed and ready for delivery, he told his assistant. Teams will pick them up at the drop points in 6 hours. The massive machine behind him hummed with power. It was connected to the alien power core and would send a signal to activate all the phase shift devices at once. In New York, alien forces had turned the city into a processing center. Thousands of humans were held there, sorting through Earth's knowledge and technology. The aliens wanted to learn everything about their new workers before sending them to mines on distant planets. Among the prisoners was Keith Donovan, a former college teacher who had learned to hide his intelligence from the alien guards. He had been gathering information for months, passing it to other prisoners who had contact with the resistance. That evening, Keith received a small package hidden in his food. Inside was one of Olivia's jammers and a note with a single word. Tomorrow. He smiled for the first time in months. In orbit above Earth, Officer Kelmar was now Lieutenant Kelmar. His commanders had not discovered his betrayal. He had been sending information to the humans for months, telling them about ship movements and security codes. Kelmar was not alone. Other alien officers had joined his secret group. They called themselves Truth Seekers and questioned the Council's actions on Earth. The humans are not what we were told, Kelmar said during their secret meeting. They don't deserve this treatment. A fellow officer named Selna nodded. I've watched their history recordings. Yes, they fight wars, but they also create beautiful art and music. The Council lied to us. Kelmar looked out the viewport at the blue planet below. Something is going to happen soon. The humans have been too quiet lately. In Washington, Ambassador Threll sensed the same thing. The attacks on his forces had decreased in recent weeks. Experience had taught him that when your enemy goes quiet, they are planning something big. Increase security at all main facilities, he ordered Commander Zorla. I want extra patrols and weapon checks every hour. Deep underground, President Eleanor Mason addressed the military leaders who had survived the invasion. Tomorrow we launch Operation Thunderstrike, she said, her voice firm. For the first time, we will hit the enemy with everything we have all at once. We may not get another chance like this. General Jackson nodded. All units are in position. Dr. Reeves's technology has been distributed to key teams. The alien informants have provided the access codes we need. Eleanor looked at the tired faces around her. Some had lost everything. All had fought harder than they ever thought possible. Whatever happens tomorrow, she said, history will remember that humanity did not surrender. The next morning dawned clear and bright. Alien patrols moved through city streets, watching for trouble. In orbit, Council battleships maintained their positions, sensors scanning the planet below. At exactly 9 a.m., Dr. Reeves activated his machine. Across the world, phase shift devices hummed to life. At the same moment, resistance fighters activated the jammers. Alien communication systems went dark. Their energy shields flickered and failed as humans with phase shift technology simply walked through them. In New York, Keith Donovan led 300 prisoners in a rush against their surprised guards. They had been planning this moment for months. Each person knew exactly what to do. "Get to the science section," Keith shouted. "Free everyone you find." Among the scientists being held was Lisa Green, a military engineer who had been forced to work on alien weapons. Keith found her, in a locked lab running toward her computer. "Keith, I knew someone would come," she said, quickly typing commands. "I've been pretending to help them while actually creating a virus in their system. Now I just need to activate it." Her fingers flew over the keyboard. On screens around the room, alien writing turned to gibberish as the virus spread through their network. In space, Alan Wright led a different kind of attack. Months earlier, humans had captured several small alien ships. They spent weeks learning to fly them, with help from Kelmar and his friends. Now 20 of these ships rose from hidden bases, their human pilots wearing stolen alien uniforms. They approached the main Council battleship, broadcasting the correct access codes. "Patrol squadron returning for maintenance," Alan said in the alien language he had practiced for weeks. The large bay doors opened, allowing them to enter. Once inside, they launched their real attack. On the bridge of the battleship, alarms blared as explosions rocked the massive ship. "Humans in our hangar," an officer shouted. "They're using our own ships." The alien commander tried to call for help, but all communications were jammed. Outside, more human-piloted ships attacked other Council vessels, causing confusion and panic. Lieutenant Kelmar watched from his post, pretending to be as surprised as everyone else. But inside, he felt hope for the first time since coming to Earth. On the ground, battles raged in every major city. The aliens still had better weapons, but without their shields and communications, they lost their biggest advantages. Humans fought with a fury born from a year of oppression. In Washington, Threll watched in disbelief as his forces retreated from one position after another. How had this happened? How had primitive humans managed to overcome Council technology? Truth about the Nalari ship," he hissed. "They found it, they learned from it." But it was more than that. The humans had not just copied alien technology, they had improved it, adapted it in ways the Council never imagined. As night fell across America, resistance fighters controlled parts of Chicago, Denver, and New York. The Council still held most territory, but for the first time they had lost ground. More importantly, the myth of their invincibility was broken. In the New York Command Center, Keith and Lisa worked with other freed scientists, using alien equipment to contact resistance groups. "This is just the beginning," Keith told them. "Today we showed them that Earth will never be just another conquered planet." The first major battle had been fought. The Galactic Council was stunned, and humanity was just getting started. News of Earth's victories spread quickly across the galaxy. The Galactic Council had always told its member species that humans were primitive beings who needed guidance. Now reports showed humans using Council technology in ways no one had expected. On Dewar, the Council's home station, a massive ring-shaped structure orbiting a distant star, representatives from 30 alien species gathered for an emergency meeting. "Ambassador Threll assured us that Earth would be pacified within months," said the Rex delegate, a reptilian being with scales that shifted colors with his mood. "Yet a year later, we are losing ground to these humans." Ambassador Threll stood before them, his blue skin pale with stress. "The situation is under control. The human attacks were small and caused minimal damage." "That is not what our sources indicate," said the Nalari representative, her voice gentle but firm. "We have reports of humans capturing one of our battleships and freeing thousands of prisoners." Threll's black eyes narrowed. "Who gave you this information?" The Nalari representative did not back down. "Many of our young officers have contacted their families with concerns about the methods being used on Earth. Some even claim humans are being treated worse than the Council's own rules allow." Across the chamber, other representatives began to whisper among themselves. The Council had strict rules about how conquered planets should be treated. If Threll had broken those rules, it would damage the Council's standing with newer member species. "I propose a full investigation," said the Nalari. "Let us discover the truth about what is happening on Earth." Before Threll could respond, an aide rushed into the chamber. "Urgent news from the Earth fleet. Human forces have deployed a new weapon. 3 more of our ships have been lost. Back on Earth, Alan Wright stood on the bridge of the captured alien battleship. He had named it Hope in Earth's first official act of claiming alien property. Around him, human crew members worked at stations once controlled by Council officers. "Status. Report," he ordered. "Shield systems at full power," responded his second-in-command, a former Navy officer. "The phase shift generator is stable. We're ready to move against their Atlantic Command Center." The ship moved silently through Earth's atmosphere. Below, battles continued in cities across the globe. Humans had not won the war, but for the first time, they were winning battles. In President Mason's underground command center, reports flooded in from resistance cells worldwide. "Chicago is completely under our control," General Jackson announced. "London and Paris are still contested, but we hold key sections of both cities." Eleanor nodded. "What about Dr. Reeves's new project?" "Ready for deployment, Madam President. Major cities now have shield generators based on Olivia Bennett's designs. If they work as expected, we can protect our civilian populations from orbital attacks." This was crucial. As humans gained ground, the Council might resort to bombing cities from space. They needed a way to protect their people. In New York, Keith Donovan and Lisa Green worked with other scientists in what had once been the Alien Command Center. They had turned the aliens' own systems against them, using the captured database to learn Council weaknesses. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to information on her screen. "The Council isn't united. Some member species were conquered, just like they tried to conquer us. Others joined willingly. There are tensions we can exploit." Keith studied the data. "Can we send a message to these Nalari? They seem more sympathetic to our situation." Lisa nodded. "I think so. The communication system allows direct contact with Council headquarters. We just need the right access codes." They worked through the night, preparing a message that would show the Council the truth about what was happening on Earth. In orbit, Lieutenant Kelmar and his fellow truth-seekers faced a difficult decision. Their commanders had ordered them to bomb human-controlled areas, targeting civilian populations to break the resistance. "I cannot follow these orders," Kelmar told the others. "It goes against everything the Council claims to stand for." Selna, his closest ally, nodded. "If we do this, we are no better than the worst species in our history, but if we refuse, we will be labeled traitors." After much discussion, they made their choice. When the order came to begin bombardment, 20 ships under their control broke formation and positioned themselves between the main fleet and Earth. "Attention all Council vessels," Kelmar broadcast. "We stand with the humans against this illegal action. We call on all officers to remember their oaths to protect innocent." If it was the beginning of a split that would change the balance of power in space. More ships joined Kelmar's protection fleet, their crews unwilling to participate in what many now saw as an unjust war. On the Council's home station, the emergency meeting erupted into chaos when they received the broadcast from Kelmar along with video showing what was really happening on Earth. The Nalari representative stood up. "I call for an immediate ceasefire and withdrawal of all combat forces from Earth," she announced. "The humans deserve the right to determine their own future." Ambassador Threll watched as his support crumbled. Other representatives who had once backed him now distanced themselves, not wanting to be associated with the brutality shown in the videos. But Threll was not finished. When the vote for a ceasefire passed, he stormed from the chamber, followed by a small group of loyal officers. "Prepare my ship," he ordered. "If the Council is too weak to do what must be done, I will handle this myself." His ship, the Planet Breaker, was the most powerful in the Council fleet. It carried a weapon capable of shattering a world's crust, rendering a planet uninhabitable. The weapon had never been used. Its existence was meant only as a deterrent. But Threll was prepared to change that. As he boarded the massive vessel, he gave a single command: "Set course for Earth. Maximum speed." On Earth, celebrations broke out as news spread of the Council's ceasefire order. In Washington, London, and other cities, people dared to hope that the war might be ending. But Alan Wright, monitoring communications from his captured ship, detected Threll's departure from the Council station. "Something's wrong," he told Olivia Bennett, who had joined his crew as chief engineer. A Council superweapon just broke formation and is heading toward Earth. And it's not responding to the ceasefire order. Olivia checked her instruments. That ship is massive, much bigger than anything we've faced before. Alan's face grew grim. Alert President Mason. We need every ship we can get in orbit. I think the real fight is just about to begin. Trezor, Breaker entered Earth's solar system, its weapon systems powering up. Ambassador Threll sat in the command chair, his mind filled with thoughts of revenge. He would make Earth an example that would silence all questions about Council authority for generations to come. Little did he know that humanity and its new allies were ready for him. The final battle for Earth's future was about to begin. The planet Breaker moved through space like a dark star, its massive hull blocking out sunlight as it approached Earth. Inside, Ambassador Threll prepared to use the weapon that no one had dared to use before. He would turn Earth's surface into molten rock, destroying the humans and anyone who had helped them. Weapon charging at 60%, reported an officer. Full power in 20 minutes. Threll nodded. Maintain course. No communications with anyone. Some of his crew looked uneasy. They had joined this mission believing they were upholding Council authority. Now they wondered if they were about to commit a terrible crime. In Earth orbit, Alan Wright gathered every ship humans had captured or built. 40 vessels formed a defensive line ready to intercept the planet Breaker. It wasn't enough, and everyone knew it. We need more time, Olivia said, working frantically to improve their shields. The city protection systems aren't fully online yet. Alan looked at the radar showing the approaching superweapon. We'll give you all the time we can. Suddenly, new signals appeared on their screens. 20 Council ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and took positions alongside the human fleet. This is Lieutenant Kelmar of the Truth Seekers, came a familiar voice over the radio. We stand with Earth against Threll's illegal action. More ships arrived. Nilari vessels sent by their government after the Emergency Council meeting. The defense fleet had doubled in size. On the ground, President Mason spoke to world leaders from her command center. All major cities have activated shield systems. We need to evacuate smaller towns that we can't protect yet. Around the globe, people moved into shielded areas or headed underground. They had survived a year of alien occupation. They would survive this too. In New York, Keith Donovan and Lisa Green worked with other scientists to find a way to stop the planet Breaker. The alien database contained information about the ship, but nothing about how to defeat it. The weapon draws power from the ship's main reactor, Lisa said, studying the schematics. If we could disrupt that connection somehow. Keith pointed to another part of the design. Look here. The control room is relatively close to the reactor. If someone could get aboard and sabotage it from the inside. It was a desperate plan, but they had no other options. They quickly sent their findings to Alan's ship. The planet Breaker entered Earth's solar system. The combined human and alien fleet moved to intercept it, weapons ready. This is Captain Alan Wright of Earth Defense Force, Alan broadcast. Ambassador Threll, the Council has ordered a ceasefire. Stand down and return to Council space. The only response was a blast from the planet Breaker's forward cannons. 2 smaller ships exploded instantly. All ships engage, Alan ordered. Focus fire on their main weapon array. The battle began. Ships darted around the massive planet Breaker, firing at any weak point they could find. The superweapon returned fire, its advanced systems taking down several attackers. From his captured battleship, Alan directed the fight. We need to get aboard that ship. It's the only way to stop the weapon. I'll go, Olivia volunteered. I understand their technology better than anyone. Not alone, Alan said firmly. I'm coming with you. They gathered a small team of engineers and soldiers. Using a phase shift device, they boarded a fast scout ship and launched toward the planet Breaker, while the battle raged around them. Their shields are weakest near the rear exhaust ports, Lieutenant Kelmar advised over the radio. You might be able to slip through there. The small ship dodged enemy fire, moving closer to the massive vessel. When they reached the exhaust port, Olivia activated the phase shift device. For a few crucial seconds, they existed partly in another dimension, allowing them to pass through the enemy shields. With a jarring thud, they landed in a cargo bay. Alarms blared as the planet breaker detected their presence. "We have 15 minutes before that weapon reaches full power," Alan told his team. "Move fast." They fought their way through corridors, using Kelmar's access codes to bypass security doors. Alien guards tried to stop them, but the humans had faced council weapons for a year now. They knew how to fight back. On the bridge, Threll received reports of the boarding party. "Send all security teams to protect the reactor and control room. The weapon must fire." As the planet breaker continued charging its main weapon, the battle outside grew more intense. Human and alien ships fought side by side against Threll's loyalists. Lieutenant Kelmar's ship took heavy damage but continued fighting, protecting Earth's cities below. Inside the massive ship, Alan's team reached a junction. "We need to split up," he decided. "Olivia, take half the team to the reactor. Try to shut it down or overload it. I'll head for the control room." They parted ways, each group rushing toward their target. Time was running out. Olivia's team reached the reactor first. It was a massive sphere of energy, pulsing with power. Alien engineers worked at control panels, monitoring the weapon's charge. "Cover me," Olivia told her team. "I need 2 minutes." At that main console, as her soldiers engaged the enemy, Olivia ran to the control panel. Her father's notes and months of studying alien technology had prepared her for this moment. Her fingers flew over the symbols, bypassing security systems and accessing the reactor's core controls. "Weapon at 90%, announced a voice over the ship's speakers. "Firing sequence initializing." In the control room, Threll watched as Earth grew larger on his view screen. Soon he would make an example that the galaxy would never forget. The doors exploded inward as Alan's team breached the room. Gunfire erupted as they fought their way toward the main controls. "Stop the firing sequence," Alan shouted, taking cover. Behind a console, Threll drew his own weapon. "It's too late, human. Nothing can stop it now." Alan looked around desperately. The control panel was still too far away, guarded by armed officers. They wouldn't reach it in time. At that moment, the ship shuddered violently. The lights flickered and alarms blared. "What's happening?" Threll demanded. "The reactor. It's destabilizing," an officer reported in panic. "Someone has initiated an overload sequence." In the reactor room, Olivia stepped back from the console, her work done. "We need to get out of here now. This whole ship is going to blow." Both teams rushed back toward their scout ship, fighting through confused enemy forces. Behind them, the planet breaker's systems began to fail as the reactor overload spread through the power network. In the control room, Threll watched his revenge slip away. The weapon would never fire now. As his officers abandoned their posts, he remained in his command chair, rage and disbelief on his face. Alan's team reached the cargo bay just as Olivia arrived with her group. "The reactor's going critical," she shouted. "We have maybe 3 minutes." They boarded their scout ship and launched, flying through the same exhaust port they had entered through. Behind them, explosions rippled across the planet breaker's hull. "All ships, clear the area," Alan broadcast. "The planet breaker is going to explode." The combined fleet moved away as the massive ship began to break apart. A final explosion lit up Earth's orbit like a new sun as the planet breaker's reactor core detonated. The shockwave hit their small ship, sending it tumbling through space. Alarms blared as systems failed. "Hull breach in Section 3, someone shouted. "Everyone hold on," Alan ordered, fighting with the controls. The scout ship plunged toward Earth, trailing smoke and debris. Alan managed to level their descent enough to aim for the ocean rather than land. They hit the water hard, the impact throwing everyone against restraints. Water began to seep in through damaged sections. "Abandon ship," Alan ordered. "Life pods, now." They scrambled into emergency pods as the scout ship sank beneath the waves. The pods shot to the surface, bobbing like bright orange buoys in the Atlantic Ocean. From one pod, Alan and Olivia watched the sky. The remains of the planet breaker burned up in the atmosphere, creating streaks of light across the morning sky. "Is it over?" Olivia asked softly. Alan nodded. "I think so. At least this battle." Rescue ships were already heading toward them, human vessels and alien allies working together. Above, The remaining council ships were withdrawing from Earth orbit, honoring the ceasefire at last. 2 weeks later, President Eleanor Mason stood before the United Nations. Representatives from every country on Earth filled the rebuilt assembly hall. On a special platform sat alien delegates, Nilari, Vrex, and others who had chosen to stand with humanity. Today marks a new chapter in human history, Eleanor began. For the first time, we take our place among the stars not as conquests or subjects, but as equals. The Galactic Council had been reformed. Many species had withdrawn, forming their own alliance with Earth as a founding member. Others stayed with what remained of the old council, but with new rules that respected the rights of all worlds. We fought not just for our freedom, but for the idea that different beings can live together in peace, Eleanor continued. That is the true victory we celebrate today. In the audience, Alan Wright and Olivia Bennett sat together. Like many who had fought in the war, they now looked to the future. Earth was rebuilding. New technologies developed during the conflict would change how humans lived, and the stars were finally within reach. What will you do now? Olivia asked quietly. Alan looked up at the clear blue sky. Help build something better than what we had before. Something worth fighting for. Out.